Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next session. I'm here with Eric Chamberlin, who is actually a former educator who saw a problem and decided to solve it by himself. And that's what he's going to present. Not only you're solving it by yourself, but you actually learn the skill, right? The kind of in vibe coding to solve your problem, which is an inspiration in and of itself, even without the product that you're presenting, the solution. It also is tested on other educators. So thank you so much for being here because it's absolutely fascinating what you're going to present. And I'll pass on to you.
Great. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Chamberlain, and I'm coming to you from the southwest of France. As Angeline said, I am a former educator who found himself in a particular position last summer. Let me back up here a little bit, start this. Uh, Pass on to page two here. So, just a quick introduction about who I am and how I got here. Along the top, I've been in education for 26 years since the beginning of the century. Started in the classroom, went into technology integration, and moved up to several opportunities to be director. Down to the bottom, I've taught at nearly every level of school, public and private. Online and at the university. So that gave me the foundation to understand education at a very broad perspective. Unfortunately, my last position, which was with the online school, uh, ended abruptly last summer, and I found myself, for the first time in my life, anyways, laid off and having to decide what to do at a little bit of a later stage in life. And as Angeline had said at the opening, found the idea that I could possibly take all of my experience from all of those places that I had been and start to focus in on maybe solving some problems in education. Um, Let me see here. I want to tell a little bit of a story to introduce the problem that I want to talk about. And a lot of people talk about assessment and AI as being a crisis, and it is for the last 2 years since AI met the mainstream. Schools have found themselves flat-footed and trying to play defense again against the idea that as soon as a student leaves the classroom, they really have zero idea as to how much the student has done to produce the work that is being assessed. And there are people that are um, suggesting that all technology goes out the window, so they are on the analog side of the spectrum. There are some people that are on the other end of the spectrum saying, okay, this is the moment where education finally gets to retool themselves. And both sides of that spectrum are labor intensive, will take too much time, and I think probably go way overboard to solve the problem that we're in. And the title of my talk is Small Changes to Unlock Big Results. And so that's why I have this photo here. I skied my whole life. Literally, my parents put me on skis when I was 2 years old. I was lucky enough to go to a ski academy as a high school student, and then I went back and worked at that ski academy. So I've skied a lot, and a lot of people go skiing. The idea that you click in and you buy a ticket and you go down the trails that they allow you to go down is a lot like public education. There's not a lot of freedom there. There's boundaries, and everybody's doing essentially the same thing. Thankfully, about 10 years ago, I was introduced to something called backcountry skiing. And in this photo, if you know skiing or you don't know skiing, notice the difference between with those people's ski. A very small tweak in that the boot is allowed to move on the back, and they put something called skins on the bottom, and it allows you to hike up the mountain. Now, I understand that that might be out of most people's physical or time restraints, but work with me in terms of the analogy for a second. I had skied on the left just like everybody else had for 35, 40 years. And as soon as I made that small change in my equipment, the whole world opened up to me. I happen to live in the southwest of France along the Pyrenees. That's what that mountain range is in the photo. And in the Pyrenees, when you can backcountry ski, you literally can go anywhere you want. Meaning I can wake up and start when I want. I don't spend any money, etc. So it was a small change in my equipment. And yet I retained all the other things that I had known about skiing my whole life. Once you click back in and you're skiing down, it's still the same rote skills that you need. Okay. So my analogy here is that education could win a similar large benefit from a small change. Let me go through this real quick. Historically, the teacher stands in front of the class, teaches information, sends the student home. The student is meant to spend time with that information. For the last 10 years or so, there's been three options in terms of how that information gets back to the teacher. Possibly you have some type of online learning management system, and that will tell you who did it, although questionable about whether the student actually did the work. And you have a pretty decent understanding of who did and did not understand the information. Option number two, time tested. Teacher says, take out your homework and we're going to correct it together up at the front of the room. So you are going to know who did it. So completion is done. And unless you collect the information from the students, you really don't understand where the pockets of misinformation were in the class. Option number three, collect the homework and go through it page by page. You are going to know who did it. And the problem with that, as you all can imagine, is that adds tremendously to the teacher's workload. So here's my reframing. We're going to stick with the same old teacher teaches information, student goes home, works with that information, preferably by hand. Two reasons for that. Number one, the research shows that cognitively there are deeper learning when a student does things with handwriting, sketch notes, annotation, however you want to do it, but working by hand, and working by hand is more AI resistant. The part that I'm going to add in the middle is that the student takes out a device and snaps a photo of that work. And then the system analyzes the student work against the teacher's uploaded learning objective, analyzes it, and engages the student in a short, scaffolded Socratic discussion around their work. If the student is below the standard, then the scaffolded conversation is trying to help build them back up to the level of meeting the standard. If the student is at or above the standard, the Socrative conversation just confirms their understanding and they move on. The result of this is that not only does the teacher receive the report the next day, a crystal clear report on who did it, did they understand it, but they have that importantly before they go back to class the next day, giving them time for interventions and to make any alterations that have to happen based on the learning gaps that were identified. So what I have, that's the solution. That's the 90-second elevator pitch that I have been working on. And I just want to make sure that there's no chat or anything. Okay, so real quickly, I'll kind of dig in a little bit more, and then I don't know if we're going to have time for questions or answers at the end, but hopefully there will be an opportunity if you would like to. Assessment runs the gamut from I just taught photosynthesis for 25 minutes, and I want to be able to capture what their understanding was before they leave the room. Formative assessment or assessment for learning would be the typical idea of homework, and then summative assessment or assessment of learning over on the right-hand side. This would be the UK version. Like I said, assessment for learning, and then international baccalaureate has a different terminology. Essentially, they all cover the same thing. The solution that I have developed is an oral assessment platform that allows you to check for understanding at all three of those levels. The first module is called Pulse. That is that exit ticket. The students see the question on the board, and preferably they respond with their voice, meaning whether they have a tablet or a laptop, then they click record and record an answer in 90 seconds. The middle module is called Study Lab. That's the one that I showed you at the beginning, where the student takes out their photo, their mobile or even upload to a device, a laptop, and have that Socrative scaffolded conversation. And then at the end is called assess, excuse me. And this is going to be a live, high stakes, graded oral assessment. Real quickly, what does it look like? This is on the teacher dashboard on the left. For the Pulse, you just pose a question. The student, this is what it looks like from the student's perspective. It works on desktop or mobile, so it's any device, very, very accessible, as well as it will also work in any language. So if you teach in a school where there is a lot of ESL or ELL learners and they understand the content, but they struggle with replying back in their native in English, they can reply back in their native language. The system will translate that and then analyze it across the entire class. That's what it looks like to record. The key benefit, here's the gain, here's the golden ticket, is in 90 seconds, the system analyzes all of the student responses and gives the teacher an in-depth analysis as to who got it, who didn't get it, and what did they not get? What are the key misunderstandings? Okay. Exit tickets have been around for a long time, but the burden of the exit ticket when it was manual was either you did it by paper and that allowed the students to write out a response. Often they would not take much time to do it because it was at the end of class, or you did it digitally and you were restricted to only multiple choice, true, false, easily rated type questions. So there's the big difference there with Pulse. Study Lab, which would be the formative and or homework module, if you will. On the left, the teacher sets it up. You upload, you decide what it is the learning objective was. At home, the student on the desktop or the mobile completes the work, again, analog, most likely, and then says, I'm ready to go. And the system says, please show us your work. The system analyzes the work and, as you can see, engages in a Socrative oral conversation. That oral conversation is transcribed, but the user experience is talking to the app, and the app is talking to them in a high quality voice. Again, why do this? First of all, it is AI resistant. It proves if the student did the work, they should be able to explain the questions. And then the second big reason is the insights the teacher gains from the collective analytics of all of the students' work. Again, importantly, before the next class, not a day or 2 days later, when this teacher collected the homework, took it home, started to grade, but their dog got sick or their kids needed to go to baseball practice. They never got around to creating that homework and missed the opportunity to identify those learning gaps. Also important to understand that this system is not a black box. The system doesn't intake the information and just give the teacher a score, or never gives the student a score. Notice that the teacher gets the photo of the actual student work for review if they would like to, the entire transcript, and then down at the bottom is an initial analysis on the student's understanding of the score. You can choose to send that back to the student or not. Maybe this is just for you so that it bases your instruction for the next day, but nothing gets sent back to the student automatically without the teacher reviewing it. Last one is the assess, and it is very, very broad and flexible by design, because a history teacher in 10th grade needs something completely different than an art teacher in middle school, and so on. So there are lots of different ways to build this final summative assessment. You can add content to it, of course. You can have an image. You either upload the image or AI can generate an image if you prompt it to. PDF, audio, and I'm working on embedding videos as well. So that can be part of the assessment. The student sees a map, it sees an image from of an art history. It listens to a conversation or a historical recording. That's the basis for the assessment. That's the idea here. When the student is ready, they log in. On the left is the desktop, on the right is the mobile. They don't see the question until the assessment starts, and that's the AI resistant part of it. There is no opportunity, there is no time to go out and ask another device or ask an AI agent what the answer is, because when the student is ready to go, they see the question and the recording starts down at the bottom, and we capture metrics such as changing tabs and longer pauses, etc. Never throwing any red flags back to the student, only as a metric for the teacher to understand what happened when the student was doing this assessment. Now, the key here, I've been teaching for a very long time. I was a professional development person. I was a director. I was a person that hired and trained young teachers. Assessment in and of itself is difficult. Assessment review and data analysis is almost impossible for a regular ed teacher or professor to do. They don't have the training and they don't have the time. When you put all of the analysis into AI, the ability for the system to dig out the misconceptions across an entire class of assessment is unbelievable, out of this world. Also, again, there is no black box. The teacher gets the audio recording to listen to if they would like to, the full transcript, and the system only provides an initial rubric score around reasoning and evidence. That's just for review. If the teacher approves it and agrees, cool, move on. You've saved some time. If they do a little bit of research and they feel like that score is not high enough or it's too low, then they finish that up and they send that feedback back to the teacher, the student. So Stay Veritas is the name of the platform. It is safe. It is built on all of the various current student safety and data privacy. It is equitable. If you have students in your classroom, of which the majority of Western classes anyways have students where English is not their first language, all of the material that I told you, the students can respond in their native language if that allows them to show their understanding. It is accessible from any device, and the benefits, as I talked about, deep insights that were previously really impossible from my experience and in my opinion. It restores authenticity back into the process, and it allows a teacher to save time to dig back into building relationships with students, having small group instruction, et cetera. All those things that teachers would love to do, but they are overburdened and unable to complete just because of the sheer workload that they are buried under. For those of you that are here and are in education, I have started marketing and advertising this app in early 2026. I am currently looking for spring pilot schools and teachers that are interested in trying this out for free. I have an entire training system where we're not just talking about the platform. I actually have a framework for explaining what this is and why you do it, and then the platform is just the engine that drives it on the back end. So if you are in a school and you're interested in piloting it or trying it out, please reach out. You can either go to sayveritas.com and fill out the form and put in the email, or you can book a demo directly there from me on my calendar. Or if you know somebody that is in an administrative role, just recently I published an article on LinkedIn about the dual cost that schools are struggling with right now, where they paid money for AI software that determines whether the student actually did the work. It's coming back with incorrect responses, which then the teacher then has to go and investigate, spend time downloading, comparing, having talks with their administrator. Every minute and hour that happens, the school is paying double. They're paying for the software and they're paying for the teacher running around trying to play AI cop. And it is, at the end of the day, all it is doing is sowing fear and frustration. And I think that this is If nothing else, this is an opportunity to get back to authentic, deep understanding of what the students understand, and also saving the teacher's time. So I don't know, Angelina, if there's any time for opportunity for chats or discussion.
Yes, absolutely. I should get my camera back on.
I don't know if you
Okay.
have any questions or if any of the people that are here
Yeah.
have any questions.
No, I want to point out that this Socratic dialogue that you built in there, because this is something we had someone on the first day who was talking about, assessments, and he also was building on Socratic dialogue. And later we have a professor he's actually going to be there for a different reason, because we're going to talk about, he's on a panel about teaching kids to help recognize truth. But I know that he also feels very strongly about Socratic dialogue, right? So
Hmm.
I'm just wondering how you came up with this, because I have asked other educators, because I'm now convinced that that we're going to really start learning philosophy much more now. So I'm just wondering, how'd you come up with this particular aspect of it?
Yeah. So the homework, the middle part, the formative assessment, is meant to try to get where the strengths and weaknesses are in the student's understanding. And so Socrates, the Socrative model is having a conversation and allowing for back and forths to for students to work out their own beliefs and understand and listen to others. That's kind of the historical or the underlying pedagogy there. um, Homework and formative assessment is meant to give not only the student understanding of what's going on, but also importantly the teacher. Because if you are presenting information in the front of the class and it is off the target or it is not strong enough in certain areas, you don't want to get to the end of the session, give them a test or an assessment. I did that. I completely remember in 1999, my first year teaching, I had 4 sections of social studies in a row. And sometimes I would make a test and there would be a question that was completely wrong. And by the time the second period was there, I was like, uh-oh, question number 5 is bad. So periods 3 and 4, I would just start at the top. Please cross out question number 5. It's bogus. Um, but that's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to find that out beforehand. And so the way that this also allows for AI to be involved, but it removes the hallucination possibility, because all the system is doing is talking to the student about the learning objective versus their work. That's it. And it's a nice tight box, and so it allows for a clean, very short snippet of their understanding. But you put all those analytics together, and it is super powerful for the teacher.
I do think so. I mean, because there is the resource problem, right? The teachers are having to face it. AI hasn't changed the issue of resource problem with teachers, but it made us go back to, as we said, like there needs to be more, checking, talking, asking, but this doesn't mean the teachers are going to magically going to have this time. So,
No.
this is a solution to that, and I find it very interesting. And one of the reasons I'm glad to have you here, because it represents a new way of how education needs to be. It needs to change in a certain way. It's a teacher working with another teacher. I mean, you doing, as you had like your the other teacher of your partner, if I remember, that was that, second level
My
control.
wife.
Your wife,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I just
Yeah.
couldn't remember. And but that's just so important, right? And that's why I really love this, because it represents what we need to, in the direction we need to go, and it uses AI in a way that is genuinely beneficial.
Yeah.
Which I think not all teachers necessarily see. So yeah. And Deborah says she loves the ski
Oh, thank
analogy.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that. I was doing something else in 2024 before really getting into this around WebXR and some other stuff, and I literally had that epiphany while I was skiing in the middle, and I immediately took out my phone and I filmed it, and that's just been a go-to for me. Same with gravel biking. You have road biking, you have mountain biking, and one is heavy and slow, and the other one is thin and fast. And somebody decided to just take the best of those two bikes and made what is called a gravel bike. Same skill, you still have to balance. But my gravel bike, I can go anywhere at any time. And again, just little. You don't have to throw everything out. It's just a small change can unlock some huge benefits. So I appreciate
Mm.
that. Appreciate that comment.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, and we're looking
My
forward to
pleasure.
education, going more in this direction. It will be more beneficial for everyone, for the students as well. And people who studied philosophy
I,
will now be happy that they can pass on their learning to others because that was becoming rather urgent. So really genuinely appreciate it.
thank you very much. It was my pleasure.